Now, this is one of those matchups that breaks the power scaling charts. Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku versus Vegito from Dragon Ball Z. On one side, you've got Goku in his Daima form, a body that's been reverted, that has spirit and a power that's far beyond anything we saw in Z. And with Super Saiyan 4, we're talking about a transformation that fuels primal instinct like godlike control, a level of power that's almost impossible to quantify. And on the other side, there's Vegito, the literal combination of Goku and Vegeta during the Buu saga. Fusion is so absurdly powerful that not even Super Buu with Gohan absorbed stood a chance. So the question is, could the raw evolved might of Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku actually surpass one of the most broken fusions in all of Dragon Ball history? Or is Vegito's sheer fusion multiplier still too overwhelming for any single Saiyan to match? If you enjoy conversations like this and want to take part in deeper Dragon Ball discussions, I highly encourage you to join the Dragon Ball HQ Discord server. Link below is in the description. We'll be diving into this topic and more over there. Now, without further delay, let's begin. There's a particular moment in Dragon Ball Daima that carries far more weight than most viewers initially realize. During the intense clash between base Vegeta and Gomah, we see that Supreme Kai's stunned reaction. And it speaks volumes. His belief at the sheer untransformed power on display that even underestimated just how far Goku and Vegeta had evolved since the Buu era. The implication is pretty striking. Their base forms alone now may rival or even surpass what was once thought as fusion or higher tier Super Saiyan transformations could achieve. This interpretation opens the door to a deeper narrative reading, one that reframes Goku's eventual attainment of Super Saiyan 4. Rather than being a natural progression of Saiyan evolution, the transformation could instead represent a calculated development, a deliberate preparation for future enemies like Kid Buu or other existential threats Goku anticipated might return. If so, Super Saiyan 4 isn't merely a new form, it's a contingency plan born from foresight and experience. Of course, the multiplier and scaling of Super Saiyan 4 and Daima has been a constant state of debate. When we first see the child version of the form, it doesn't come across as a massive leap. It lacks the kind of staggering divine amplification associated with God tier transformations like Super Saiyan God or Blue. Watching characters such as Super Saiyan 3 Goku and others tag team Gomah only to be swiftly overwhelmed reinforces that impression. Even when Goku ascends to Super Saiyan 4, the gap doesn't feel astronomical, more in line with the moderate increase, perhaps 4 to 5 times stronger than Super Saiyan 3, fitting more with Toriyama's earlier unrestrained power scaling. But everything shifts when Goku and Vegeta regain their adult bodies. Suddenly, that same base Vegeta without transforming is keeping pace with Gomah. Piccolo's reaction to the energy being exchanged says it all. His shocked remark about their power might sound understated, but considering this is someone who would fall alongside Ultimate Gohan and witness fusion level might, that kind of awe is deeply telling. It implies that Goku and Vegeta's base forms may now operate in tiers that once required transformation, possibly surpassing Buu Saga Titans like Super Buu or Ultimate Gohan outright. Then there's Gomah himself. His adaptability is quite staggering. When Goku first reveals Super Saiyan 4, Gomah almost instantly begins adjusting, analyzing and countering the form. Within moments, he's able to pressure and nearly incapacitate Goku. Compare this to his slower reaction time against Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and a clear pattern emerges. The initial showing of Super Saiyan 4 may not have been dramatically stronger than Super Saiyan 3, at least not immediately. It's possible the form needed time to establish or reach full output, especially given the difference between Goku's adult physiology and his childlike form. But as the battle intensifies, Gomah undergoes an even greater metamorphosis. His body expands into a colossal kaiju-like monstrosity towering over everything in sight. It's a visual manifestation of the fight's escalation, where raw size mirrors raw power. From here onward, the confrontation stops at being a clash of fighters and becomes a war of overwhelming forces, each evolution pushing the other to their absolute limit. You can't precisely measure the increase in power that comes from Gomah's transformations, but the sheer size difference tells a story on its own. In Dragon Ball logic, bigger almost always equates to stronger, and Gomah embodies that rule to the extreme. The massive physical expansion suggests an astronomical jump in power, one that's difficult to quantify but impossible to ignore. Even if someone wanted to argue that characters like Kid Buu could compete through skill or unpredictability, the comparison starts to break down once Gomah's later transformation enters the picture. His growth is so exponential that it completely redefines the scale of power we're dealing with, and that leads to the third and arguably most important point. Daima doesn't follow the anime continuity. It's tied to the manga timeline, and that distinction is far more significant than it seems at first glance. The manga and anime differ not only in tone, but also in scaling logic, power portrayal, and even character behavior. The manga versions of events tend to ground power levels more strictly, toning down some of the anime's more exaggerated feats. This naturally means that the Daima cast operates under somewhat a slower ceiling of power unless stated otherwise. So while Goku and Vegeta are undoubtedly monsters even in base, their Daima feats should be interpreted through more measured lenses of manga scaling and not the anime's hyperbolic highs. Another yet subtle important detail occurs when Goku regains his full adult body during the final battle. His frame noticeably changes, is bulkier, denser, and physically more imposing, even when transforming. It's not a massive visual shift, but it's enough to imply that Super Saiyan 4 might scale differently when assessed in an adult body compared to the child one. In a series where physical size and mass often correlate with power output, it's plausible that adult Super Saiyan 4 Goku produces a higher yield of strength and endurance, even if the transformation itself is the same on paper. Taken all together, all of this paints a layered and evolving picture of power and Daima. It's not just about static multipliers or traditional scaling charts, it's about adaptive evolution. Shifting continuity and forms that grow in response to context. Once you account for these factors, placing characters like Kid Buu in the same tier as Daima's late-game combatants become far less defensible. Now, focusing specifically on adult Super Saiyan 4, it's easy to assume this form carries a far greater multiplier than the child version. However, the evidence doesn't clearly support that. In fact, Gomah adapts to Super Saiyan 4 much faster than he does to Super Saiyan 3, implying that while the increase in power is substantial, it's indefinitely higher. Instead, the adult version seems to introduce something more nuanced, a kind of adaptive durability. Much like in Dragon Ball GT, where Super Saiyan 4 Goku could endure devastating hits, recover mid-battle, and come back even stronger, Daima appears to echo that same concept. The form feels less about sheer destructive output and more about resilience that compounds with every exchange. And though Goku insists he's fighting all out against Gomah, his ability to continuously recover, counter, and adapt after each blow suggests a hidden evolutionary element, possibly one tied to the full maturity of Saiyan biology. Vegito, born from Potara earrings, represents the ultimate fusion between Goku and Vegeta. First appearing during their desperate battle against Kid Buu, the goal was simply yet monumental. Vegito, born from the Potara earrings, represents the ultimate fusion between Goku and Vegeta, first appearing during their desperate battle against Majin Buu. The goal was simple yet monumental. Create a warrior powerful enough to stop Buu, who had already absorbed Fat Buu and later Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo, a being with strength and versatility of multiple top-tier fighters. From the moment Vegito emerges, his superiority is evident. Even in his base form, he pushes Buu onto the defensive almost immediately. While Buu manages to land a few hits early in the fight, that's largely because Vegito is still adjusting to his newfound fusion energy. Once he stabilizes, the tide turns completely, with Vegito effortlessly dismantling Kid Buu's attacks and controlling the fight with overwhelming precision and composure. Officially, Daizenshuu confirms that base Vegito already surpasses Super Saiyan 3 Goku, meaning his fusion amplifies the combined power of Goku and Vegeta by at least 400 times, though likely far more when considering an additional factor known as the rival boost. This concept usually refers to the natural synergy that comes from Goku and Vegeta's longtime rivalry. Their competitive drive enhances Vegito's strength, granting him a distinct boost in performance. However, this isn't the core of Vegito's power, it's simply a bonus. The true foundation of near-perfect fighting abilities lies in the fusion of two geniuses, both possessing immense battle instincts, adaptability, and mastery of countless techniques. When Vegito ascends to Super Saiyan, his dominance reaches another level entirely. Super Vegito dismantles Buu without effort, adapting to every trick and countering every attack. Even when Buu attempts to absorb him, Vegito's sheer energy overwhelms the process. And even in the most memorable displays of power and control, when Buu transforms him into candy, Vegito continues to fight at full strength, moving, thinking, and attacking freely despite being turned into a literal piece of chocolate. This highlights not just his power, but his conceptual mental control and combat strategy. Vegito is not just a brute force fighter, he's a tactician capable of turning any situation to his advantage. Vegito's durability also stands as one of his defining traits. His ability to resist transmutation techniques like Buu's candy beam makes him practically invulnerable to many forms of attack. In the manga, this alone solidifies his reputation as one of the most durable beings in existence. However, the anime version elevates his feats even higher. During Buu's enraged outspace attack, the dimensional barriers themselves begin to collapse. Alternate realities distort and the very fabric of space-time starts to unravel. Vegito warns that if the clash continues unchecked, the universe itself could face annihilation. To contain this threat, Vegito unleashes power far beyond his previous limits, tearing through Buu's barriers and restoring stability to reality. This feat alone suggests a power level that could be interpreted as multi-galactic or even universal, depending on one's understanding of Dragon Ball's cosmology. Ultimately, Vegito's strength is as much about intelligence and purpose as it is about raw energy. Though his fusion doesn't last forever, intentionally undone when he allows Buu to absorb him as part of a calculated plan, Vegito remains one of the most complete and efficient fighters ever conceived in the Dragon Ball universe. Now, when you break it down, the power scaling between these characters is actually quite comparable. Gomah, described as the strongest enemy, would logically place him above Kid Buu or Gohan, depending on which one you consider superior. The same logic extends to Vegito as well. Since Super Saiyan 4 Goku from Daima surpasses Gomah, even though Gomah continues to grow stronger and only loses in the long run due to stamina limitations, both characters ultimately scale above Buu level threats by the end of their respective stories. However, determining exactly how much stronger they are isn't simple. In the manga, there's an argument to be made that the spirit bomb Goku uses could surpass Vegito's power. It's described as the maximum power in the Buu saga, a force that exceeds anything shown before, which would include Super Vegito's might. Of course, things might become more complicated when factoring in Super Saiyan 3 Vegito, since Vegito never displayed his full potential during the saga. In this chain of scaling, Daima Goku would emerge as the stronger fighter, since Gomah is portrayed as more powerful than both Kid Buu and Buhan, and Daima Super Saiyan 4 Goku surpasses Gomah, which would logically stand above that tier. However, if you disregard the specific interpretation of scaling and assume that Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku and Vegito exist within the same general range, then Vegito would likely take the win. Vegito's advantage lies not just in raw strength, but in his intelligence, combat experience, and mastery of countless techniques. With the combined knowledge of Goku and Vegeta, two of the greatest martial artists in the universe, the fight becomes more efficient and strategic. Plus, Vegito still has Super Saiyan 3 as an unused trump card, alongside the ability to adapt quickly and analyze his opponents in battle. All things considered, while both are incredibly powerful, Vegito seems to make the most sense as the ultimate victor.